It's Build a Nation time in FM23 and we are here in Northern Ireland with Lisburn Distillery. We are taking the third tier Northern Irish side, hopefully to the top of Northern Irish and European football. Sounds like one hell of a tough ask, doesn't it? Well, let's go and get started because we've got no time to lose. Yes, hello and welcome along to part 1 of our Northern Irish Build a Nation save Lifting Spirits from Lisburn Distillery with me, Daniel. We are here today, as you can see on the Choose a Team screen, to take on a big job and challenge with a Northern Irish semi-professional club with the aim of taking them to the top of domestic and, if possible, European football. There's some rules and little processes we play by to make things a bit trickier, which we'll get through as the episodes go on. But for now, if you're looking forward to this, it should be pretty epic. I'm hoping it will be. Then please do put a thumbs up on the video and subscribe for daily FM23 content. We'll be back with a second episode of The Head Coach today. The first match we'll be playing in either of our series, but we did have part 1 where we looked for our first job and met our first club yesterday evening. That one's in the eye above. If you missed it, please do go and give it a try. But in this 11:30 slot for the next few weeks, it is all about Distillery. Let's go and take the job, get into it without further ado. We've got okay facilities by this level standards, but let's go and see what we've got to work with on the pitch. We're going to meet our staff, we're going to meet our players, and we're going to talk about the challenge that lies ahead. And here we are into the first day of our job at Distillery. 400 quid a week on a 1-year deal. Let's hope we can get offered a new one, or this will be a very underwhelming Build a Nation. We come as an inexperienced 29-year-old manager, but we look to take this club to its greatest ever heights. It has got a rich history though, which we'll talk about in a minute. If we look at what's expected this season, 6th place is the media prediction. It's a 10-team league in the third tier of Northern Ireland. There's no director of football, but we have got an assistant manager. And look at that wage budget, £161. Don't get much bigger than that, does it? We've got half a star reputation. We've not got the worst facilities, actually. We're probably going to rely on youth players. But overall, after finishing 8th last year, we've got to do a little bit better this time around with the club. Let's get through to see what tactic they're recommending. A defensive 4-3-3 sounds pretty good to me. And they've got a player on loan from Larne who are an established top tier side. And what are the board expectations? Are they going to be realistic? I think so. Finish mid-table, that's alright. Be competitive in all the cups, and there's loads of them in Northern Ireland. I'm not underestimating when I say that either. You'll see when we get to the top of Irish football, where we'll also get to take part in the SPFL Trust Trophy, European football. I think we did it once before. There were 7 or 8 trophies you can play for in Northern Ireland. It's absolutely mad. But all the board want is to finish mid-table year after year. I'm going to be aiming higher than that, but not immediately. But let's get through to the start of our first day at the club, and let's get cracking with Distillery, because we have got to talk about some rules here. Unlike our head coach save, which is a director of football challenge combined with a journeyman, here we are one club and we are in charge of everything. However, it's not as easy as that. I never use the player or staff search screens, and that won't be happening here. We've also got player attribute masking on, so it's going to be a lot harder to find people, and at this level it's going to be tricky to say the least. So the next one's going to be a transfer special. That's going to be pretty interesting come the start of the season, but for now let's go and meet the staff and players we're working with and get a bit of a feel for Distillery as a football club, starting with a brief bit of history. Because Distillery, if we come over to the history page, have got a rich history in Northern Irish football. 5 top tier title wins, 12 Irish Cup wins, and various other successes too. The club played in Europe as recently as the 29-10 season. They didn't have a great result in the Europa League, but they were there, and they were only relegated from the top tier in 2013. It's all gone a little bit wrong since, but they have got a history of great names, and we are going to be trying to feature those later in the save. If we start with the competitions though, their last major silverware was the League Cup in Northern Ireland. 2011, they went on a remarkable run to win it, and we're going to be trying to follow that up a bit later on in the save, but we've got more pressing issues in the short term. We are going to try and focus on a bit of history here because there are some notable names that have either come through the Distillery Academy or played for them in the past history of this club. And although I'm not going to do it artificially, if a natural opportunity comes up to involve them in our coaching team or in our backroom staff at the club, I am going to take the opportunity. People with the esteem of Martin O'Neill, the Northern Irish manager, Josh McGuinness, a current international, and Grant McCann, a manager who was recently a Northern Irish international, all people that played for this football club. The great Sir Tom Finney did once upon a time as well. It is a club with a proper history. And when you compare it to some of the clubs in the lower leagues of Northern Irish football, even the size of the stadium, I know it's not in great nick anymore, but 7,000 fans through the gate, decent junior coaching and youth recruitment. I'm hoping we're going to get decent intakes. It is a club that should be so much higher up the pyramid. But as we know in all walks of football, it's played on the pitch. It's not played by reputation. But I want to get this club back to the top, competing at least at the top of Northern Irish football. So please don't sack us in the first season. Have we got any affiliate clubs? We haven't. Have we got any good players in the youth team? We'll find out in a minute, because first we're going to go and have a look at the staff. There is no recruitment team. None. There are 4 vacancies there for a director of football, a chief scout and 2 scouts, which is actually pretty generous at this level. I guess with the budget, we're not going to be getting high quality ones in. And without using the staff search screen, we're going to be relying on job adverts and backroom advice. And with us not having many staff here already, that might be tricky to get good names. Let's go and have a look though at the ones that are in the club. We've got 1 physio in the senior team, Kim Mulholland. What's she like? She's not very good, unfortunately, but still fairly young, so may improve in terms of attributes. And actually, the staff are on pretty big wages, and so are we at £400 a week, considering that the wage budget for the whole squad is £160. Does seem a little bit off that. Let's have a look at the coaches and the assistant manager, starting with the assistant, Kieran Stitt. He is on £60 a week. He's good working with youngsters, and he's not great, but by this level, I don't think he'll be disastrous by any means. A good disciplinarian, got good knowledge of both of the islands. He's alright. He's worked as a goalkeeping coach at higher levels, so he's got some experience with bigger names. Let's move on to the other key man, who is Stevie Graham, because based on our youth facilities, we are going to be relying on this man to give us good youth intakes. Not the worst judge of ability actually at this level. 6 out of 20 is not a disaster at all. Decent working with youngsters. Again, the discipline seems to be okay. I'm not too disappointed by that, as much as it doesn't seem great. Former player for the club as well, so knows it inside out, albeit it was only there for a year according to that. Brendan Shannon is the first of 2 senior coaches. Again, I'm not too disappointed. 7s across the board. He, by contrast, is completely lacking in discipline, but has pretty decent determination. So a weird little balance there. And then Gavin Johnston is the other senior coach, who again, yeah, he's maybe not quite so good across the board. Performance analyst. What on earth are we doing with one of those in the 3rd tier of Northern Ireland? He's not very good, and it's a waste of £50 a week if you ask me. I apologise if any of you end up watching this. It's only FM ratings. It's not what I think of you. Under 18 manager is David Irwin. Judgment of ability, potential and tactical knowledge, all 1 out of 20. And then Alan Craig is his coach, and he's not that bad for the level that we're at. So a little bit of a mixed bag, but it could have been worse. The key thing though, for a good first season, is going to be the standard of player and the balance of the squad. I don't want to have to do too much work, and with the budget, we're not going to be able to anyway. So just to confirm we were right, we have got 96 of that £141 left, so we might be able to find a couple of little gems. I guess most are on amateur contracts here. But let's get through the development centre. There's a 25-year-old in the reserves who's of decent ability. And there's lots of youngsters with potential. My word, the kid on loan from Larne is in the reserves. We'll get him in the senior squad. And the 25-year-old. But look at some of those potentials. Some really big players there. Dylan Sinnerton. Looks a good young striker. Lewis Nelson, not the best young centre-half, but there is some promise amongst the names there, and there are some older ones who really aren't very good, which is a little bit weird. But that isn't the worst, and it gives me a bit of hope for the senior team. Let's go to the under-18s though. Any more there? No. So straight to the senior squad. What have we got? I'd imagine from episode 2, we're going to be having a good look at the planner when we get some more players in. But for now, I just want to meet the senior pros and see what's what. We start with 2 goalkeepers who are pretty balanced and pretty well matched. Look at the squad though, it's so young, there's so much potential across the board. and then there's just one random 37 and 35-year-old in there. But the young keeper, 20-year-old Ethan Carey, 2.5 ability, 5-star potential. Awful positioning. I was looking at him and thinking, bar the composure, he's not that bad. But no, awful positioning. And as I've mentioned about 1,000 times on this channel, I hate defensive players with awful positioning. We'll work on it and he might well be first choice, but otherwise his attributes are okay. The second keeper, again on an amateur contract, is Callum Rooney. He is 2-star ability, 5-star potential. He's actually pretty well balanced, but he's got poor reflexes, which is crucial in FM, and is crucial for a goalkeeper in fairness overall. But he's got much better positioning, he's got okay aerial ability, but probably isn't quite as good overall. So we're going to have to take a hit on either reflexes or positioning. We'll decide which one later on if we can't get a keeper. It might end up being a priority position yet. If we move on to defence, we've got a 35-year-old right back who is one of 2 over 30s, who is the best rated player at the club. Aaron Smith. He is a Northern Irish player who has still got his physicality. That's the key thing for us. Still fairly quick, still got great natural fitness, good in the tackle. I like him. I mean, for this level, I don't think you're going to get many better players than that. Only a few years ago, he was playing for Carrick and Glentoran up in the top tier. And although he'll probably decline quite quickly on a free agent deal for 1 year, that is a really good player to have. I'm delighted with him. Just hope he doesn't get nicked by someone. The next one is 37-year-old Stephen Curley, who I gave you a brief little preview at there. He is not very good. 3-star ability, but apart from positioning and tackling, he's not great. He's slow, he's not strong, he's not 6 foot and he can't jump. I almost want to play him as a holding midfielder as much as he can't do it, but I'd like to have 2 better centre-halves than that, if I'm being honest, come the start of the season. Alongside him, there's apparently only one other defender in the squad, so I'm hoping we're going to have some versatility here. But the other player is a player name I know very well, Ethan Warnock. Now, he was definitely in England before, Everton's academy. He's a very solid left-back at 4-star ability, got potential to grow into as well. He's got the natural attributes, he's got pace, he's got fitness, and he's okay in the tackle, which at this level is all we need. He's been playing in the second tier before, he's got room to grow into. I mean, I'm really happy with the fullbacks we've got. I'm a bit concerned that we've got no other defenders virtually, but the 2 fullbacks are fantastic, so there are some positives to start off with, and it's 2 positions we don't have to worry about upgrading this year. Let's move into midfield, and we start with one of the players we promoted from the reserves, Kieran Clougherty, a Scottish 25-year-old who's not great, but an emergency backup who's okay on the ball, got good natural fitness again, and 6'5". Not the best in the air for it, but I quite like him from set pieces, so don't rule out him being involved yet, but definitely a solid squad option if nothing else. Next up is Lewis Higginson, who's got the same current ability but big potential. Not quite as good technically, no double figure attributes. But again, decent work rate, natural fitness, acceleration. You've got to have some bodies like that in your squad. And for this club, having players like that on the bench and available for cup games, whatever else, can always be a big bonus. So, doesn't look like he's ready to be a first teamer yet. We'll definitely get some action for us as I see it. Then on to 17-year-old Odran McCart. He is on loan from Larne. He's a top tier player. He's got no fitness really, but he's quick. He's very similar to Higginson, to be honest. So I can see him being involved again in odd games, but probably not a regular starter. Again, massive potential, but I'd rather prioritise the players that we own rather than the ones that are on loan. Not that we own any of them on amateur contracts. On to the left wing, we've got 2.5-star ability Bobby Robinson. He is again 5-star potential, so there's massive room to grow into. And he's very solid. And you know what I'm liking about this team, to be brutally honest, is 6'3". We've got a lot of height. We've got a lot of physicality. Can we take advantage of set pieces and fly up the league that way? But for a winger at this level, to be in double figures for passing, touch, crossing, dribbling and pace, we can't ask for much more. The heading's just a bonus, but he is a good player. 2.5-star, but will play a lot of games for me. Let's move over to the right where we've got 3.5-star ability Johnny McCaw. Got a bit more room to grow into. How is he rated that much better? He can't cross, he can't dribble, he can't finish. He's quick and he's okay on the ball, But I think this is where we start to see the lack of judging player ability from our assistant manager, because there is no way on earth that guy is a lot better than the one we just looked at. He's not my type of player, I think we'll put it that way, but given where we are, a good backup to have on both wings for sure. I'm going to go in order because the best position doesn't seem to add up all the time, so there's no point trying to split it by position. We'll go for the centre midfielder, who is the second best player at the club. Mark McKee at 23. 4.5 ability, 5-star potential. Oh, he's good. And he can play number 10. He can play up front. He can play off the wings. Where has he been before? I knew I recognised the name. He was at Cliftonville in our FM20 save. And he was a youngster coming through there. I remember him being at the club. Was at Stevenage before. That's where I recognise him from. They're fairly local to me. He is a good player. I like him as a box-to-box because he's got the engine, he's got the pace, and he's got the finishing attribute. I'd also probably quite like him as a number 10. Going in behind as an attacking midfielder. He's got 2 good attributes to waste defensively. I can chuck 2 bodies in there. We've seen plenty of them at the club. And then maybe just push him a bit further forward. So maybe rather than 4-3-3, it can be a 4-2-3-1. Push a little bit more aggressively. I like him. A little bit shorter, but he's got enough ability to take the set pieces if need be. So that all works out. Let's see who could play alongside him. We've got Neil Ballantyne. He is 2.5 ability, 4.5 potential. And he is exactly what we were just describing. Maybe not got quite the physical fitness to be a dog's body, but could sit in there as a sort of deep lying player. And maybe not offering too much technically. But again, look. 6'4", 13 jumping reach. We have got to nail set pieces this year, because there is no excuse for us not to get 3 goals there. Again, this isn't a player I'd like to start every week, but it's a good player to have in the squad, and I can have no complaints overall at the depth. We maybe just need a bit of quality in centre midfield, but it's not going to be a priority over centre half, where, for some reason, how have we got a club that physically hasn't got 2 centre halves? It's baffling. At least there is quality we can promote if need be. Moving on to the last 4 players, we've got Josh Lynch, a left winger. 3-star ability, 4.5 potential. Actually rated better than Bobby Robinson, the youngster we looked at. But given the disappointment with McCaw, I'd like to hope he's going to be quite good. Oh, he's a centre mid as well. He's quick, but he can't cross and he can't dribble. I mean, technically he's awful for that. But as a centre mid on a box-to-box, or a Mazzala as they're suggesting, I could see it. I really could see it. So I think we might have found one of the centre midfielders there. We probably then just need that natural sitting player, but we can put a body in if need be and just sacrifice them defensively. I like him. Look, he's versatile, he's good covering 2 or 3 positions, and I think he's good enough to start for now. Let's move on to the final 3. Pierce McVarnock is a number 10, 2.5 ability, 4.5 potential. Technically not rated very well at all, but again quick, good first touch and good technique. And with his determined attitude and his little bit of flair, as a backup to someone like McKee, I can see him being absolutely fine. First year, we have to accept that. Now on to the penultimate one, who is very interesting, because by the looks of it, Brendan Bennett is the only player we own who is not on an amateur contract. He is officially registered at the club on a part-time deal, and I presume is taking that 45 quid a week out of our wage bill, so he better be good for it. 3-star ability, 3.5 potential. I'd love him to just be a traditional winger. He sort of is. He's not got great attributes. He's got the pace. He can play up front naturally, but his finishing is 3, so we'll ignore that. Again, an okay option for number 10. But I hate to say it for 50 quid a week. And I know he's been at the club a year. His goal record's great there. And I'm sorry if you see this, but just because you're taking a third of my wage budget, I think I'm going to have to let you go. Maybe not this season. Maybe I'll just let the contract go. But he's versatile. He's solid physically. But those attributes do not match up for being the only paid player at the club, I'm afraid. So probably going to be going after 1 year, maybe earlier if we can get him out, but still a decent enough player to contribute if he does end up staying. And the reason he might is because we've only got one natural striker listed in this squad. Now it is a 19-year-old with 5-star potential, but Jordan Shearer, please live up to the Premier League legend namesake when it comes to finishing and heading. He's alright. Him and the one that we saw, I can't remember his name, in the under-19s, they're alright because they've got decent pace, they're both okay finishers, both alright off the ball and okay composure. I've got no issue with that. It's not a superstar. It's not a player we'd like to have long term, but he's all right for now. I've got no qualms with that at all. So Jordan Shearer, not the worst finish. We've basically got a team, as I asked you to let me know in the comments what tactic you think we should play and where we should improve heading into the new season. We've got a team with 2 brilliant fullbacks, but no backup defenders and no starting centre-halves. We've also got a bit of deficit in the middle. We've got enough players out wide to do for the first season, and we've got a great number 10 in Mark McKee. But I need one sitting midfielder, definitely need a centre-half, and although the keepers and strikers aren't great, they're probably players that will do for this year, if I'm being honest, particularly with some of the youngsters we've got as well. I'll be honest, that squad is better than I thought it was going to be. I'm just annoyed there's no centre-half, so we might have to get looking through the development centre, find the best defender we can bring up, maybe bring up one of these fullbacks, because there's not a lot of depth in certain positions. But when you look at the youngsters here, there are certainly options, and at the moment, I recognise that name as well. We'll be able to make do and should finish mid-table. Do you have a quick look at what the season preview is? Where do the media expect us to be? They expect 9th. Oh, it's a 12-team league now. I do apologise for my mistake earlier. But Distillery 9th place, I think we'll be alright. We'll be able to get solid mid-table for sure. However, from now, all attention turns to the transfer window. I have got a lot of work to do. Our first game is away at Bangor, who I think were the favourites, and a cup game due just around that time as well. But it's almost 2 months to get prepared, and we are going to do our best to get a good squad together. So let me know down in the comments, where do you think we should improve? What tactics should we play? And how do you think we'll get on in this save? Those of you that have been here for a long time know this is sort of going to replicate the Bangor City save from FM21. I can't lie to you, I'm really looking forward to this. I hope it's going to be epic. And I hope you'll join along with me to find out if it is. So if you do want to stay up to date and you did enjoy this introduction, please do chuck a thumbs up on the video. Make sure you subscribe and turn that notification bell on to make sure you don't miss a thing. We'll be back with the head coach at 3:30 today. You can see episode 1 of that up in the eye above. And of course, we will be here 11:30 tomorrow for a transfer special, a look at the squad planner, and our first competitive game with Distillery. All the key playlists and some FM23 save ideas up in the eye above. Ways to support the channel and links to other platforms down in the description below. But thank you for coming along as always. Episode 1 of The Head Coach is above my head now. I'll see you back here tomorrow for our debut. And